Grab someone to hug and a box of tissues, because the final 2 episodes of Violet Evergarden are gorgeous, thought-provoking, and will draw out your emotions faster than a bowl of cut onions. All good things must come to an end, and it truly is the end for the very first iteration of the Violet Evergarden anime series. A series which has completely caught me by surprise, and I can say this without any hyperbole, this is one of the most perfect anime series that I have ever seen. There isn't even full resolution for everything. Even if they just end it right here and we never see anything else from Violet Evergarden, the experience that you get from this anime series is unlike any that I've ever experienced before. It has truly drawn out a lot of emotions in me that frankly I thought were completely dead. And that's a pretty big accomplishment. That combined with just the overall amazing production value of this series, I honestly think puts it in the pantheon of the best anime ever created. And the final 2 episodes of the series, I think, are sort of like the perfect example of why this show is just so amazing. The production value, the characters, the emotions, the action sequences, everything just works in these final 2 episodes, so let's go ahead and talk about both of them. Of course, I'm reviewing both of the episodes because I never had a chance to watch last week's episode, so it's fitting that I get to review the rest of the series right here, and it actually kind of works because both of these episodes are sort of like a 2-parter. We get resolution for the 12th episode in the first 5 minutes of the 13th episode. And in retrospect, yeah, they probably could have wrapped up that episode there, but I'm glad that they left it on a cliffhanger, as it basically got more butts and seats to watch the final episode of the series. It ends in a way that you just have to see how it's actually going to end. So the overall story of episode 12 is that all of the auto memory dolls, in particular Catalia, Benedict, and Hodgins, are going on this mission across the ocean, and they're going to try and bring peace between these 2 countries, which are still currently going to war with one another. And there's this anti-peace rebel group which is going to do everything in their power to actually try and stop these guys, and they actually trap them all on this massive train where they're just going to blow everything up, and they're going to ensure that these auto memory dolls cannot arrive to write this letter and bring peace to the land. What they didn't count on is that Violet Evergarden was actually going to arrive on the train as well. Now, what's most interesting about all of this is we get the reluctant team-up of Violet and Deethart, the brother of Gilbert. And while Deethart might have come across as a very cold and callous character, by the end of this series, he gains a tremendous amount of respect for Violet and seeing how far she's willing to go, not just because of her orders, but because of how strong her love is for his brother. It's truly an amazing moment. But episode 12 is very different than some of the previous episodes that we've actually seen. It was very heavy on the action, which this series seems like it can do no wrong. It can do the storytelling, the atmosphere, and the emotion correct, but it can also do some incredibly thrilling action sequences, and seeing Violet and Deethart team up against this group of anti-peace rebels while fighting on top of a train is just exhilarating and a lot of fun. I mean, really, what's not to love about that sequence, especially when the stakes are so high here, with Violet basically sort of sacrificing her body to save Deethart, as well as to protect herself and to stop these would-be attackers. It's made even more tense when she actually loses her brooch, which is actually caught by one of these bad guys, and there's a great moment in this episode where this one main villain from the other side is about to shoot Deethart, but she manages to get right in the way and block it with her hand. This scene is made all the more tense as it's the final scene of episode 12, so you're sort of left with this big cliffhanger as to truly what is going to happen, and by the beginning of the next episode, you get to see that these guys have planted these bombs on a railroad, and as soon as the train goes over it, everything's gonna go boom. That's when we get this very thrilling sequence of watching Violet run to the back of the train and actually stop it by pulling on the brakes. What's interesting about this scene is that she's actually lost an arm. It was just completely blown off by one of these anti-peace rebels, and then she runs all the way past the train while it's starting to slow down at the end of the track to try and remove this bomb, which is attached to the track. She gets some help from Benedict, who, out of nowhere, just turns into Superman, while wearing high heels, I might add. He just comes out of nowhere and does this, like, falcon kick right down on the bomb and takes it out, like, immediately, while also grabbing onto the railing before, like, falling into the water. It's intense stuff, but Violet is definitely struggling. She only has one arm. She doesn't have a very big grip on this thing, which is bolted to the side of the railing. And there's this tense sequence where the train is getting ever closer to the bomb as she's trying to rip it away. Her fingers are getting ripped apart. Her arm is getting destroyed. And she finally manages to throw this thing into the water while sacrificing her arm. And as if it looks like she's going to either fall or get caught in the blast, Benedict out of nowhere becomes a superhero again, turns into Spider-Man, and ends up saving her at the very last second. And it looks like the dolls are going to make it to this place, they're going to write out the letter, and peace will go about the land. Now, that's all of episode 12 and the beginning of episode 13, and it's really solid stuff, but honestly, in my opinion, it just pales into comparison to everything that is episode 13, and I need to stress that episode 12 is still super high caliber, amazing anime. Like, I cannot stress that enough. Even with its faults, when compared to episode 13, they really are incomparable. They're both perfect episodes, but 13 just really just kept punching me in the gut with how much it really made me want to cry. It didn't make me cry as much as the one episode with the mother who was writing letters to her daughter, but it came really freaking close, especially because after this big event, it looks like both Diethard and Violet are on much better terms with one another. Violet herself never really had much of a problem with him, and there was a little bit of tension with them in episode 12, but by the end of this conflict, Diethard realizes why she is the way she is, and why she cares about Gilbert so much, and Diethard might be very rough on the outside, but he cares for his brother too, so he realizes why she's going through these things, and he decides to bring her to his estate where his mother is. Now, this is the scene that really got me, and there's still a lot more to talk about, but the scene where Violet confronts Gilbert's mother is just such a cathartic scene. I love it because I knew that this was going to be the scene that would allow Violet to sort of let out her emotions and also come to peace with the fact that Gilbert is probably never coming back. Especially because the mother is also dealing with a little bit of post-traumatic stress and a little bit of delusion in thinking that maybe her son is actually alive. And we do get a scene that, honestly, I have to admit, the writing is a little cheesy because I've heard it like a million times. Basically, she gives the spiel about the fact that he's not dead, he's alive in our hearts, and she knows this because she loves him. I've heard it like a million times in other anime series, but it really does work here, as she is trying to make that very clear to Violet. And seeing these two characters interact with one another is great, as they both just miss Gilbert so much, but the way that they're going about it is so incredibly different. And it's at this moment that Violet realizes, yeah, he probably is gone, but she now has a better way of actually dealing with this. And when she decides to leave, Diethard gives this heartfelt command, a final order, if you will, to live a long life. He puts a little cherry on top of the sundae by saying, live a long life, and then die. That's it. That's an order. Now, this scene has a great punctuation at the end, and that's when Violet says that she's no longer taking orders. And this goes in line with this flashback sequence we have where Gilbert is sort of pouring his heart out to Violet and begging for her to show some form of emotion, and even calling her out on the fact that she is displaying emotion. The thing is, she just doesn't really know what that is. It's like a foreign language to her, and he's so upset over the fact that he can't get her to articulate her feelings, and that he's essentially responsible for turning her into this, like, war machine. It just really hits right here. But it's the final parts of the episode which are perfect. The final scene of the series is essentially all about Violet writing a letter, not for someone else, but a personal letter from herself. And of course she writes it to Gilbert. And it's sort of the first full expression of her emotions, hoping that he will eventually return. And of course reaffirming that she understands what it truly means, the words, "I love you." This is great. What a fantastic way to end this series. And that's not even talking about the really great metaphoric imagery we get at the end with the planes coming in and dropping the letters over everyone. And even the very final scene, which I cannot wait to hear what you guys are going to say about that one. So, what's the rundown on both of these episodes right here? Really, I would need like a couple of hours to fully analyze this show, I think, to fully do it justice. But it does sort of wear its emotions on its sleeves, and that's one of the best things about the show. That and the fact that while the writing itself is not like super reinventing the wheel or anything, like I've seen this type of writing style before, this show is backed up by some amazing visuals and atmosphere, which just bring about just as much emotion as the actual words which are portrayed in this show. And man, it does it with some gusto. There is some imagery in the final episode that I just love. Like how they build up the fact that there's getting ready to be this big air show in town, the first one that's been around in a long time, and they're writing all these letters for them. And at the end of the episode, all of the main cast comes together, and they all get to have like their final moment, and it's all heartwarming and awesome. And then you have this plane that comes in that starts to drop these letters all out from the sky. And I think Violet put it best when she said, "This is everyone's feelings that are falling from the sky." It's a great moment, and honestly, I thought they were going to end the episode there, and it would have been perfect. It would have been the final thing right there. But after the scene of Violet writing her letter, we do get one final moment where after staying up all night writing that letter, she gets a request from someone else. She goes out, and she's in the middle of this like beautiful field right next to a beach. She walks up to a house, she does her typical curtsy, starts to introduce herself, and then she pauses for a moment. She says that her name is Violet Evergarden and gives a wonderful smile. Now, my interpretation of this scene is that basically it's just her moving on. It's just showing that she's going to be stronger than she ever was before. She's living a life that is of pure freedom and of her own volition. Now, everybody else is going to have a couple of different interpretations. This could be very well maybe her original parents. It could be Gilbert, who is still possibly alive. Although, I think if she actually saw Gilbert, she would probably get a lot more excited. That being said, it's going to be a very nice interpretive ending. As I know, Violet Evergarden is based on a series of light novels, which I have never checked out. I've never even read a light novel in my life. But what is good news is that Violet Evergarden is still going to have a bright future. They've already announced that there is another anime project which is in the works. And I kind of pray that it's a continuation of this and continues to have the same consistent art style as this show right here, because wow, just some of the imagery in the show can just bring about some amazing tears. I didn't even mention another one of the final scenes where you get to see all of the locations and places that Violet has actually gone to. At the end of the episode, you get to see all of these empty, almost weirdly empty places of the things she's visited, and I mean, it really hit it home. Like the soldier who died, the cabin they stayed in during the winter, the observatory, the mansion, the poor little girl's house, the writer, just everything is there. And in that moment, every single emotion that I experienced during those episodes sort of swirled back into me and reaffirmed that, yeah, this was a super memorable and beautiful show. It does have some faults in that a lot of the side characters are not expanded upon that much, but I'm not going to fault the series for it, because this is Violet's show. This is her experience. We're just sort of watching it happen in front of our eyes. She has always been the main focus, and getting to see Violet at episode 13 compared to episode 1, wow, what a transformation. The robot girl has actually learned to have emotions. So yeah, I loved the show. I loved the experience of watching it. It's unlike any other anime that I've ever seen, and typically the type of show that I don't review for you guys, but it sort of opened my eyes to a lot of other shows that I don't give a chance, and I'm really glad that I watched this one right here. It's top 10 material. It's that good. It really is fantastic, and to know that it's possibly not done is another great thing about this show. I can't wait to see what the future of Violet Evergarden is going to be. But wow, singularly speaking, this was a fantastic anime experience. And if you're even a fan of animation at all, I honestly believe that this is mandatory viewing. It's that good. If anything, it's just a make-you-feel-good story. Yet at the same time, it's also going to rip you to pieces. It's Violet Evergarden, and I think, honestly, everyone would be a better person if they watched it. That's how good it really is. The final 2 episodes are a 5 out of 5. The entire anime series is a 5 out of 5. Perfect production value, amazing characters. The character designs are also just on point in every single way. There's still so many moments I wish I could talk about, but I just don't have the time. But really, what I'm trying to say is this was awesome. Check it out, guys. 5 out of 5 across the board. I want to hear from you guys, though. Tell me what you thought about the final 2 episodes of the series, and give me your final thoughts on the entire Violet Evergarden experience. Did you like it as much as I did? Did you have a lot of emotions drawn out of you? How much did you guys really cry? Come on, be perfectly honest. And tell me about your favorite moments from the series and what you hope to see from the future. And there you go. there we go. That's the end of Violet Evergarden. It's also the beginning of the brand new anime season. There are a ton of new shows which are coming out, so if you guys have a show you want me to look at, tell me about it, and if I have the time, I will look at it and review it for you guys. I know there are some that I'm most definitely going to be looking at, and the one I think I'm looking forward to the most is My Hero Academia, which airs in just 2 days, and man, I am freaking pumped. After all of this emotion, I'm ready for some superhero action. But yeah, Violet Evergarden, it's awesome. There it is. That's my thoughts. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more anime reviews and all types of my conversations and stuff. I'm getting befuddled here. I don't even really know how to end this video aside from saying thank you guys for watching, and as always, stay Dandel, baby.